Hey guys, what's up? It's Phoenix here again, and today I just want to do something a little bit different than maybe gameplay. I want to do a tutorial. Now, I've been wanting to do tutorials on this channel for quite a while. Even though it's based around gaming and gaming videos, I still like to produce tutorials to help people, whether, it's with editing, making effects, Photoshop, Dreamweaver, whatever really. So in this episode I'm going to show you guys how to actually render out video in Adobe Premiere, which is the program I use to basically edit and render my videos out. Now a lot of people use Sony Vegas. I've always loved the Adobe products, so it's the one I use. So I'm going to click New Project. Now these are the recent projects that you would see if you were using Premiere, but if you use it for the first time, you won't see any of these recent projects. So I'm just going to click New, and it's going to come up with this New Project screen. Now there's a few options here. The video display format you can leave as default as timecode. It's just how it displays the frames, so we're going to leave it as timecode. Same for the audio, it's automatically on audio sample, so we'll leave it on that. It was only on milliseconds because I was playing around. And the capture format, is it DV or HDV? Obviously, if most people will be recording in HD, so you want HDV. Now this is where you name your project. Now this isn't the sequence, which a lot of people get confused with. This is the actual document name. So we're just going to name it, bear with me please, I'm typing with one hand. Let's just name it test for now. And then we're going to hit OK. And it's going to bring up another document, or another window should I say. And it's got a few settings that you don't need to actually mess around with. Now, by default it's set on I believe it's a DV NTS, I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. But whatever one it's on, you want to come down to HDV, which is what we originally picked before this. And you've got a few options in there. Now, you will rarely use the 50i or 60i. You will mainly use either the 1080p 24, 25 or 30 frames per second, or the 720p 24, 25 or 30 frames. Now I record at 30 frames per second with fraps, and I record in 1080p. So I'm going to choose the HDV 1080p 30 frames per second. Now you can see over here the time is 29.97. Now it does say 30 frames per second, but it's not actually 30 frames per second, it's 29.97. So when we actually go to render out, that's when we'd actually change it. So this is your sequence. Now if you're doing a series, let's say like my Minecraft series, I've made one document which is the title of the series, which is How Not to Survive. And within that, every time I create a new sequence, it's kind of like layers in an actual document. So make sure you name your sequences appropriately. Like let's say this is going to be Minecraft Craft episode 1. My microphone's directly in front of my keyboard, so I don't have a stand yet, which I'm going to be getting soon, so it will make it a lot easier. But anyways, I'm going to click OK. Now when it loads up, it's just thinking, and people can really be overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they see on screen. They just see all these boxes and like, oh shit, this is just, it's out of my league, I can't do it. But that's definitely not the case. I'm going to break down every section for you so you can actually understand what the sections do. So over here, should I say, we have the project area. Now the project area is where you actually import your footage and all the files you need. So if it's pictures, if it's video files, audio files, whichever. We're actually going to take some from my Minecraft series. I'm just going to take 4. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to import them. Now we have they're 30 frames per second, which is good. As you can see, our frame rate for our Minecraft one document is 29.97, so we need to make sure we have the same frame rate overall. So if we come below this, we will see media browser, which is basically just allows you to browse through your computer for your files, so you can drag them in instead of going to file import or double clicking here. We have information, which is just basically raw information about what that video is instead of going to the properties. So here we can see it's 30 frames per second, the actual resolution. Now it isn't quite 1080p, just simply because I don't record in full screen because Minecraft bugs out sometimes, so that's why it's 1080. And that's really for the information. I mean, it just gives you information on the file that you've got. Now, the history, of course, is what everything you do. You know, if you make edits and you don't like it, instead of doing Control Z, you can go to your history and click back and get rid of them, the mistakes, or if you don't like something. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. And we have the effects panel. Now, this is where all the kind of the effects and stuff come in. You can make your own presets, which I have a few. The ones I use the most. You have your audio effects. You know, basically make your audio sound fun, or changing the pitch and that kind of stuff. And then you have audio transitions. So the audio transitions that you would normally use would be exponential fade. Now this fades out in a way that it can either just cut off at the end, slowly dying out, or you can fade between clips, which is really good. So that's the one you would actually use if you were, fading out at the end or even at the beginning of an audio clip. Now, video effects, they're your average video effects. If you've played with Photoshop or After Effects, then these will come in very familiar with you. There's like color correcting your footage, adjusting sharpness, keying out stuff, adding effects, changing the colors and all that kind of stuff. And then you have video transitions. Now there's a lot of video transitions here, and to learn you need to play with things. So I do suggest that you take these and you put them onto your videos and you just see what they do. Now the one I use the most is in Dissolve, and it's Cross Dissolve. It's just the one that I played with the most, and it works well for what I want, a subtle fade, which is ideal because we don't want anything too fancy. So that's really the effects part of this. Now if we come over here to the source clip effects and audio mixer. Now the audio mixer is really great. You can basically adjust the sound levels of your audio. So if you've got some game and your sound's up too loud, you can come in and pull your audio down on whichever channel corresponds. So here's video 1 and there's audio 1 for video 1, and audio 1 is also here. I mean, we can change the left and right balance of whatever. And I mean, a lot of this is self-explanatory. You can really understand it from just common sense, really. The effects are basically when you add an effect, this is where you could edit them. Like maybe you want to tone it down a little bit or just turn it off to see if it's if it's working or not. That's where you do it. Now moving on, the project area, which is where you view your video. You can play, stop, you can fast forward. This would actually be better actually showing you with a clip. So we're actually just going to drag these in and onto the video 1. Now the audio automatically gets put into the correct audio section. So as you can see, if we drag across this timeline, you can see it playing. And if we grab this, we can see that it will play a different speed. You fast forwarding it if you want to do something specific, and you can also rewind it, and it does make funny noises. And it's the same with this. It's the same concept. You're moving back and forth. Alternatively, you can step forward if you want, specific frames, or you can just go to the next point. And there's a loop, and I mean, all these are self-explanatory from, putting your mouse over them. But I mean, for basic editing, you don't really use a lot of these. So down here, this is where the magic happens. Now, this is your timeline / editing place. Now, if you wanted to add, let's say, some audio in, like commentating, then you'd find your commentating, obviously the file that you've saved, which for me is this one, and you'd basically add it into audio 2, and you'd press play and you'd hear it, as you can kind of hear when I scrub through it. You can hear little glimpses of what I'm saying. That's because I'm scrubbing through the timeline. So let's say we just want to mute the audio on this for a second. Let's say we want to fade this in. So we're actually going to go to video effects. Actually, no, not video effects, video transitions. And we're going to go cross dissolve. And we're just going to bring it into the beginning. Now, we can't really see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab this little slider. And we're going to zoom in. Now, the closer you zoom in, obviously the closer you zoom in. I don't know why I just said that. But it's good for when you're trying to sync maybe audio up in, you know, different situations, because when you do live commentary and you use an external program to record your voice rather than just fraps, you do have to sync your audio, which can be a real pain. So if we zoom right in and we grab our crossfade and we apply it, you will see that this purple area has applied. Now this means it's going to fade in from there all the way to the end. Once it goes past that point, it's going to be fully faded in. Now you can make this bigger if you want, so it's going to be fading for longer, or alternatively you can make it shorter, so it's just a short little fade. So these are some of the ways you can actually edit out your your effects. And of course you can also have your effects here where you can change the timeline if you want. Sometimes it's much easier to edit in the window rather than in the effects panel. It's entirely up to you. This is it's personal preference really. So now we've got our fade in. As you can see, when we zoom out we can't really see it. It's because it's such a short fade. It's not really noticeable. Obviously it's noticeable on screen, but it's not noticeable in the timeline. And as you can see, this is how many minutes of your video footage. So we currently have around 10 minutes of footage, 10 minutes and 40 seconds around of actual footage. Obviously the audio goes on for longer because I haven't imported all the clips. This is just for demonstration purposes. So I want to move your attention down to the bottom right. Now these are tools to actually edit your clips. Now a lot of these are self-explanatory. Again, I mean, you've got your zoom, which you could just use that. You've got your move, so you can move around when you're actually in. But you can just use your scroll bar. And the two most important tools to use are the actual select tool and the cut tool. So if I wanted to say cut a section out of this, I'd bring my line on my cut tool to the actual red line going down, which basically represents where you are in the timeline, and I'd click that, and then I'd take it to where I wanted to cut out, let's say here, and I'd do the same. Then I'd select my move tool, I'd select that clip so it's highlighted, and I'd press delete, and now that's been deleted out. Now once that's done, I can actually select my other clips like so, zoom in a little bit and actually drag these, and they will snap to the nearest clip, which is pretty cool. And that's that's the way you edit sections out that you don't really want. And let's say it's kind of a hard transition, so again we could go into our cross fade and we could put one in between. Now this means it's going to fade into the next clip. Now for some reason, if you didn't really want that, you could always of course adjust it here at the start of the cut. So what it's going to do is it's going to fade like so. Alternatively, we can have it fade into black and then fade actually into the other clip. Now the way to do that is, instead of actually putting it on both of them like that, you can put it on one side like so, and then it's going to fade into black. Now for some reason it's not doing it, so let me just put it like that, and then there we go. It's because, I don't know, it might be a bug or maybe it's something I'm doing wrong, but I find if you put it on the clip you wanted when it's the other clip isn't as close or touching, then it won't fade it out into the next clip, so you get a nice little black fade. And then we can also put one on this side, which is here. Again, we're gonna have to move it apart and perhaps move it back like so. This way we're going to get a nice little fade, and then it's going to fade back in. Now when you're doing your clips, if it's something like that, I'd advise moving them out into little sections. That way you can actually you know, edit them and then put them in position, especially if you're doing, like, let's say a montage or something. It's definitely ideal to do that. If you do want to move your audio clip from audio 1, let's say, because when you do actually click a clip, it will pick the audio as well and it move them together. So you just need to right click and you need to unlink them. That way you can move them independently. So if I wanted to put this maybe on the third layer for some reason, you know, you could do it that way. It'll still play with the audio as long as they're lined up, which they will if you know, snap them correctly into the correct positions. So that's really a little introduction to you know, the actual program and editing everything up really. Now I just want to show you about color correction just before we end. Let me just zoom this back up. So these are my presets. Now I'm going to select all these clips here and I'm going to drag my preset on them all. Now when we click this and go into the effects controls, we'll see there's two you know, effects on this image. So one of them, let's turn them both off and you can see the difference. So one of them is an Unsharp Mask. Now what an Unsharp Mask does, I doubt you could actually see the difference on screen at this resolution, but let's go to 100% and let's, I guess the best way to do it would be actually increase the size, well, the amount should I say, and if you look at the wood you will see that it gets crisper and it gets clearer the more you increase it. Now sometimes when you overdo it, it can look cool, but I wouldn't recommend going over 80%, just simply because when you add other effects it really does become noticeable and it looks really too crisp and too clear. I've done experimenting in the past with my other videos and I've found you know, around 50, which is default, works quite well, but I've got it on 40 for my preset, just because I want a subtle sharpen effect, because when you do render out your footage it will become blurry, and it's the same when you upload it to YouTube, it gets compressed so it gets blurry. So always add an Unsharp Mask and this will help your footage look very clear you know, when you actually come to upload it. So that's the Unsharp Mask, and you can find the Unsharp Mask in the video effects, and it's under blur and sharpen, and it's the bottom one, Unsharp Mask. Now the second one I add is a brightness and contrast. Now you can see this clearly how much difference it actually makes to your footage. It just pops out the colours, it makes it look fresh, it makes it, you know, look vitalized, and just, you know, it pops off the screen. And when people don't do certain stuff to their videos, such as a brightness and contrast, you know, the videos don't look as good. and you know, they could potentially have really good videos, but if they added a simple effect such as this to actually enhance the video so the viewers get, you know, a better video experience, I think it really does pay off. So that's really the only two effects I add. Sometimes I could add a color correction and maybe change the colors up if I wanted to, but normally I just have these two. So as for rendering, we want to export this. So if we go to File and we go to Export Media, you can also do the shortcut, which is Control M. Now, when you do this, a window will appear, and I'm not sure what the default is. I think it might be Windows or uncompressed Microsoft AVI, but whatever the case, you want to change it to H dot or point, whichever you prefer, 264. Now this is probably one of the best codecs to actually render at, and you can add comments if you wish, not really needed. Now the output name is what it will be saved as, so make sure you save it appropriately with the appropriate name if you are doing a series. You want to obviously export the video. Excuse me. You want to export the audio. Do you want to open this in Device Central? No, you don't. Now here's the summary of what your video, when it's going to be saved. You know, what format it is, the resolution. As you can see, the resolution is 1920 by 480, so that's really wrong. That's, you know, not right at all, but we're going to fix that. So if you go to presets, there's a lot of presets that you can use already and set up for you. So the preset we're going to use is the, let's see, where is it? We want 1080p. Well, it's HD TV 1080p 29.97 high quality. We definitely want high quality. So we're going to click that, and it's basically changed. Now you want the aspect ratio, which basically is the widescreen. So if you've got a square monitor, render out with the correct you know, aspect ratio, and the same with the frame width. Whatever you recorded it at, make sure you actually render it in that. Now you see, if I rendered it in the 1018, it'll look really distorted when I upload it to YouTube. So even with the black bars at the top, just make sure you actually, you know, render it in the correct resolution regardless of the black bars. Now it's, you know, a TV standard, so we're gonna have a NTSC, sorry, and the resolution is going to be the same. I'm going to change the frame rate to 30 because that's what we actually recorded Minecraft at. Now the aspect ratio is going to be widescreen 16.9 because that's the size of my monitor. It's the size that I recorded it at. Now the profile, it's entirely up to you what you have it on, but I would recommend having it on either main or high. Obviously, the higher you choose for the settings, the longer it's going to take to render. So I used to have it on high, and it used to take about 4 hours to render out. So I'm just going to keep it on main, which I've been doing for the Minecraft series, and it still looks great in my opinion. Now the level, again, you can go up to the max, or you could leave it on the recommended default, which is what I'm doing. Now you can also check render at maximum depth, which again, it increases your render time. Now when you do actually check this, it increases your render times by, you know, more than 5 hours. It's ridiculous, so I wouldn't recommend actually putting that on. Now as for the bitrate settings, if you use 2 passes, then of course it's going to take longer, but for this you know, preset, it recommends 1, and it does work quite well. So if we look at the bottom here, it says estimated file size, so it's 3321 MB, so you know, that's quite a big file. So we want to actually reduce the size. I normally have mine on 8, and this reduces the size quite a lot. Now for a 40-minute video, 842 isn't too bad. I mean, it's entirely up to you how you you know, how much bitrate you want to give it. because if you want to upload a 20-minute video and your internet's totally crap, then you want to crush this down to something like 2 or maybe even 3. Now of course the lower you go, the longer it's going to take to encode, and you know the quality still probably won't be the best. So I normally leave it on about 8 because I can upload a 2 gig video in about an hour and a half, so it's not too bad at all. Now as for the audio settings, you want to basically keep them on default. I mean, nothing really changes, everything's pretty standard. So for audio you could leave it as default. Now as for the video, we've just gone through that and everything should be fine. So all you need to do now is click export and your video will render out, and once it's rendered out you can upload it. So guys, this has been my first tutorial. I've got to work on presentation a little bit more, maybe be a bit more organized, because I've just basically done this tutorial on, you know, a whim. I wanted to record a video and I thought, you know, might as well do a tutorial for you guys. I've got some time, so let's get it out. So if you liked it, please thumbs it up, share it with your friends, leave comments on how to improve it. If this video didn't really help you, then, you know, leave a comment asking me, you know, to do something for you, whether it be a Photoshop tutorial on a specific thing, or maybe an After Effects tutorial on a specific thing. You know, just give me suggestions on what to create. If you give me something specific to make, then yeah, that's even better. But if you just, you know, say any random tutorial, then, you know, whatever, I can do it. So apart from that, guys, thank you for viewing this. I know it's been quite long. Thanks for your patience, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.